Okay, it looks like we're live. Just give me a moment to set up the camera right. Just do. That's a hang on. That'll that'll do. How is everybody? Do the live long and prosperously, he says. I can do it both hands. It started the camera going again. No, I'm not going to do it. How is everybody? See, I've got a cool hat on. And this, of course, is the October live stream. I've even got a Halloween pumpkin hanging up. Jeffrey says, coming to Sydney on Tuesday, what should I do for the 2 days before work? Lots of things. Let's see what we got. And it just fell down. That was a worry. Total chaos at the start. It means it's going to be a good stream if I can ever get this camera right. Okay, just give me a moment. That's exactly where I want to go. Fuck, I did it again. Okay. AI has taken over. Okay. That's good. Stop. Stay there. Okay, yeah. Hi, John. Hi, Lee. Hi, middle-aged geek girl. Looks and sounds right, says middle-aged geek girl. Hi, Donna Pass Whiskey. Luna can knock something over and John. Now, Luna's outside at the moment. Middle-aged geek girl may need to let her in, but she's outside right now. But yeah, thanks, and everyone. Welcome to the live stream. Got a few things. I'm going through some stuff I haven't talked about on the channel, but that I've watched lately. So I've got a bit of that going. Some of it I've kind of talked about because I reviewed box sets, but I've actually watched some of the things in the box sets, which I'm just getting out now. And yeah, so it's 7 o'clock in the morning here. It's not warm. Hi, Ned and Janet. Yeah, so that's going to be the format. It's going to be very loosey goosey kind of this time around. One thing I will mention is that I did a video yesterday where I was saying why I was voting yes in the Australian referendum to recognise First Nations people as the first people of the country and to give them a voice to federal parliament. And I got some interesting responses. Got a lot of support, got a lot of love. I'll talk about the AI a bit later. Brian, here's some Canadian funny money. Hope you can get yourself a treat. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. But yeah, so I did this video and just basically talking from the heart because a lot of people were putting things on social media which were not true. There's a lot of kind of there's a lot of American right-wing money coming into Australia to go against that vote. And so a lot of people are doing grassroots videos just saying why they feel that doing the right thing is doing the right thing. And I got some, I'm going to read you a couple of the things I got. I got a lot of wonderful support. So much love to the people who offer the support. But I also got some really odd things from people who maybe or maybe not self-medicating, who knows. Let's have a look here. Where did I put those? But yeah, there were some nasty pasties who maybe weren't doing the right thing. Let's see. And of course, this is riveting content. Here we go. I've got them written down as if with. Somebody said, of course Terry is voting yes. He's a rancid soy cucking leftist. This anti-white racism is not going to end well. For your information, this referendum is cultural Marxism, the desperate attempt by gender and race obsessed maniacs to get white people to view their whole existence as a nexus of oppression. The cultural Marxist tyranny will force white people to flee Eastern Europe. No, the cultural Marxist tyranny will force white people to flee to Eastern Europe and Russia, the last bastions of white Western hegemony. That's what I got. And I mean, yeah, he spelled everything right. Lee, thank you. Uh, Lee promised to defray the shopping for DVDs. Finally, my money is where my mouth is. Thanks a lot for that one. Yeah, trigger warning also. Lee says, not in Australia, but honestly, I can't see any reasonable person will vote against it. The problem is they're not reasonable people. It's a really weird thing. And it happened when we did the marriage equality thing as well. A lot of overseas money came in to talk against it. So I did that, and yes, it isn't about movies. It was the one video I've done in the last 3 years that's not about movies. And a couple of people go, well, this channel's supposed to be about movies. It's about whatever I like. It's a good thing. Um, so yeah, fresh Bondo puns. So cool that I'm not at work during your live chat. Thank you for that. I appreciate that a lot. So yeah, yesterday was an interesting afternoon. I decided about 12 to do it. Quickly put the video up. Quickly edited it together, and things went a roller coaster after that. But thanks to also the support for people. So, given that it's been mentioned, I did see The Creator, the new movie with John David Washington in it. Yeah, I know what you mean, Dean. But yeah, reasonable people are thin on the ground. But thank you, Janet. And yeah, so basically, I saw The Creator. Went with my nephew Billy because we do a thing whenever we get together. He was here for 5 days. And whenever we get together, we go and see a movie because that's the uncle thing I'm trying to do. And The Creator, interesting film. Good evening, Echoes. I'm glad you can make it. Yeah, so I kind of liked it. I really liked the fact that they did some really interesting things in the making of the film. They used like a $4,000 Sony camera to do all of the filming. Yeah, they had lenses and they had gimbals and things like that, but it's all done on a cheap camera. But it looks fantastic. The cinematography is first rate, and they shot things on so many good locations, particularly in Asia. And then they added the CG effects and the motion capture for robots and things really, really well. That's okay, Echoes. You do what you need to do. If it's a short visit, it's still a visit. But yeah, it looks good. I think it's a lot of the plot beats are a little bit. We've seen them before, but I like what it does. The little kid playing the kid robot is fantastic. But the world building in this one is really, really good. I enjoyed it from that point of view. John David Washington's kind of doing a. I have the little problem that he's kind of playing a low key version of his father, Denzel Washington, and I think he may be slightly breaking out of that. He did it in Tenet, but I like the way his career's going, and it's really great. But yeah, really great world building, really great model work. The model for the American floating battle station is terrific. So if you're on the fence about going and seeing The Creator or seeing it by other means, it's a recommend from me, but it's not like a strong, strong recommend. Billy liked it too because it had lots of robots, had lots of shooting, lots of explosions. He's 13, so that stuff's definitely where he wants to sit. And we had a good time as well. Yeah, Luna's outside, Dean. She gets to do some free range stuff. She normally stays in our backyard, and she'll wander around for a bit, come back in. She usually goes out for 5 minutes in the morning, comes in, goes out, comes in about 4 or 5 times before she settles down. And yeah, she's an agent of chaos, and she hid for the entire duration of our nephew's visit, and then wanted love for days and days afterwards. So, cat owning and cat wrangling is a wonderful thing. Okay, thanks a lot, Echoes. Take care. Let's see. Is there anything else, people? I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll reverse this. Do the ask me anything first. So for the first 40 minutes to an hour, start asking me questions. They can be personal. They can be movie related. They can be opinion related, and I'll work with that until I finish my coffee. The floor's open. So give that a go. But I do have a stack of movies that I like, and in the second half, I'm going to be doing those and keep a list because there are a couple of hidden gems there that I really want to talk about. Why don't you like caramel? Caramel's burnt sugar, middle-aged geek girl. You know I don't like caramel. There's no nuance to caramel. You can't get like bespoke prestige caramel. It's all just burnt sugar, and there's no subtlety to it for that. Um, it's probably not good for you either. I mean, burning foods is apparently not the best thing. Colin, thanks. Do I collect movies on older formats like VHS? I have a few. I have a couple, one of which is autographed by the star of the movie. It's a movie called Goodbye Paradise, an Australian film. It was signed by Ray Barrett, who's no longer alive. And I've got a couple of other horror things as well, which I've kept for more collectible purposes. But I think I might have three or four. It's a rabbit hole if you start collecting older formats. I do have a couple of, actually, I've got one Laserdisc. And I did a video about that because it's the Jolson story and Jolson sings again. And I saw it when I was up at Ballarat at an op shop, a thrift store. And I bought it so no racists could buy it and do the blackface. Dean says, a few days ago you were commenting on Failsafe as the scariest movie for you. What film freaked you out? If you look back in the back catalogue of the channel, I did a video about Suspiria, the original Dario Argento Suspiria, which I saw when I was maybe 20, and I was going through basically a complete meltdown, an emotional breakdown for very good reasons. And I couldn't watch all the movie. It freaked me the hell out because I wasn't in the right mental state to see it. And then on the video, I went back and actually tried to watch it once more. I tried to watch it again maybe 15 years ago, and I couldn't watch it then. And then I went back a third time on the video and watched it. So if I was going to go with anything, it would have been Suspiria, but for mental health reasons rather than anything else. It's a scary movie and it's a fine movie as well. And I don't know why they remade it, but Suspiria would be the one. Trucks are coming back. If there's background noise, there are trucks across the road doing all the footpaths on the other side of our street. So there's going to be a lot of truck noises. If you hear them, I apologize for them. Okay, Thrashbondo says, as it's Halloween season, got any favourite creepy classics? Any good Australian gems? Australian horror movies are thin on the ground. I'd go with The Babadook. The Babadook is fantastic. Jennifer Kent is a terrific director who should get all the money to make whatever she likes. But that one I like because it blends being a single mother, having a problem child with some very real grounded horror. It's an incredibly subtle film made on a relatively small budget in Adelaide in South Australia. But I kind of want to lean towards in the future horror movies that are created by women because they have different trigger points and different viewpoints on horror. And I think that's interesting that there are emerging groups of women creators who are doing horror movies and showing us what scares them. And I really, really, really like that. I'm not going to be specifically theming Halloween on the channel because I'll just have this feeling that it's going to be such a crowded place on YouTube movie review channels that everybody's going to be doing horror movies. And so I kind of want to give myself some space apart from that. Okay, La Chiesa. Can you write that one down, middle-aged geek girl? I want to check that one out. What's all the stuff? All the stuff behind me is the man cave that I've got to clean up before Christmas. There's a ton of things there. I just use the man cave basically to stash stuff in, and I'm going to be getting rid of a lot of it. There are things I'm going to give away. There are things I'm going to try to sell, and there are things that just will go into e-waste. I've been a bit slack with that. It kind of started over COVID, but I'm going to be getting rid of a lot of stuff. So probably by the time December, January comes around, all of this is going to be different. I'm moving desks around. This desk I'm sitting at, which goes across the room, is going to be going down near the window there. So I've got one long desk. I've actually got a desk beside me as well. So I'm turning the one desk into two desks, like into one long desk. And a lot of these shelving units are going. The records I'm probably going to keep, and I'm going to find a better way to store them. I'll have the record player set up. It'll be a much better setup. What's the action figure? This one. This one's my podcasting action man. He's got a podcasting mic there. I got it when I was doing podcasts rather than YouTube videos, which was a silly move because I should have started YouTube years before I did. But yeah, that's the podcasting action man. I'm keeping him. I've got a few action figures that I really love, and that's one of them. Where is the other one? I had another one on the desk, which I think is still on the desk. And like I said, chaos around here. Oh yeah, I'll show you one. While the nephew is here, I did get one of my favorite Chinese actors, Tony Leung. That's the character from Shang-Chi that he plays. Tony Leung, acting God, and it does that when you squeeze his leg. So he's got the 10 rings on from Shang-Chi. Got that. I've also got the Shang-Chi character as well, the Simu Liu one. Little things like that amuse me. What was the Australian zombie movie we saw at the launch? It was Undead. The Sperry brothers did a Q&A on Undead. Movie from about 2004. That one's fun. It was one of those movies that people made, and the Sperry brothers did all the special effects work for it on a 2003, I think it is, laptop. So that one's a fun one. Set in Queensland, which is a scary place at best. And yeah, that will be a recommendation, Middle Age Good Girl. Thanks for that. What's the action figure? Yeah, we've got that. I'm going to have to do something about this desk. I really am. It's chaos everywhere. Brian, thank you very much. Here's some money showing off your neat stuff. I've got more neat stuff if you want to give me more money. But I can't grab it right now. I've got Sailor Moon action figures up there. I've got a little kind of not Lego, but similar kind of thing, a little cinema that middle-aged geek girl assembled for me. Actually, given that you've done that, Brian, I'll show you the cinema. I've got to be very careful because it's fragile. But I've got this tiny little cinema that middle-aged geek girl assembled for me, which is beautiful. I love it. It's one of my favorite new things. Yeah, it's lots of building blocks, middle-aged geek girl says. So, yeah, I'm keeping all of the movie reference books when I clean this up too. I've really got to. I may get rid of a couple of. You know how sometimes when you see movie reference books, a lot of them are just listicles and not really value adding to the thing they're talking about. I'm getting rid of a lot of those, and those ones can go away. Water bottle time. Details on the Patreon offers. Let me bring them up on my screen. What I will be doing next year as well is I'll be able to share screens with people because I'll have the software to be able to share my computer screen while I'm live streaming, which will be rather groovy. Let's have a look here. Membership over here. The character actor one is $1 US a month. Let's see, I've got two of those. Secret Source is $2 a month. Action Star is $5 a month. Living Legends $5 a month as well. So basically, I just relate them to different movie actors. It's I do occasionally do other things with the Patreon supporters. There was a video I did of Luna playing around. Um, I should do more, I'll be honest with you, and I may do some exclusive videos once I get the man cave here set up. I can do exclusive videos for the patrons and for the channel members, because channel memberships are another option as well. And I may even just do a groovy things of the man cave once I get the man cave sorted out, and just kind of do a special video where I do like 10 treasures of man cave. And there are a number of random things here. I've got ancient Roman coins. I've got indigenous art. I've got a whole bunch of stuff in here, which is really worth sharing and just kind of giving you a bit more of an idea of the stuff that I like, apart from movies. And because of parasocial relationships, there'll be a limit to what I share of personal information. But the things I'm passionate about, I'd really like to share with people who watch. Lee says, here in America, we have an ongoing zombie movie starring creepy Joe Biden. I kind of like him. I think that for a guy his age, he's doing really well. And whereas Trump, for a guy his age, he's doing horrible things. Do you have real Roman currency? Yeah, when we were in England, and people find these all over England all the time. Little Roman coins, which are usually just beaten copper, kind of very rough beaten copper. And I picked up a couple of those at a antique market, which was kind of cool. I also picked up some hyperinflation money from Germany during the Weimar Republic before the Nazis got in. I've got like a 10,000 Reichmark note, which was kind of interesting. Jake Wright says we have the same interior decorator. Yeah, this is like a midden, like a midden where people who live nomadic lives will go and eat oysters at a certain place for hundreds and thousands of years, and you get a midden of oyster shells at a certain place. This is like my cultural midden, which I really am going to do that. That's basically what it is. Dean Johnson says, do I consider myself a Renaissance man? No. I mean, I've got a lot of wild and random interests, which comes from the fact that I am self-educated. So I kind of followed the things that were interesting to me when I learnt about things, rather than a particular curriculum in order to get a qualification and go on to do something in a certain career. For me, I just followed things I'm passionate about. Midden gems. Thrash Bondo, give yourself a smack on the back of the head for that joke. Yeah, I'll just tell people it's like Edison's lab. Yeah, Edison was an asshole. I mean, I would never compare the man cave to Edison's lab. Hi, FG. How you doing? Hope everything's well there. So let's look at only 24 minutes in. Wow. Time flies fast when you're having fun. Yeah, so basically, just to finalise on the election thing, we're voting next Saturday, and we have this wonderful thing in Australia called democracy sausage. Because elections, and people go to vote usually at schools because they've got a bit of infrastructure and they set up things at schools. And so when you go and vote, you go in, you give them your name, you get the papers, you go and vote. And then at the other side, the schools have usually set up a couple of barbecues, and they barbecue sausages and other things. Some of them do bacon and eggs, but for the most part, it's sausages. And you just get a sausage in fresh bread, in a slice of fresh bread, with mustard or tomato sauce, sometimes with caramelized onion on top. And that helps the school's fundraising efforts. So people have started calling it democracy sausage. And every election, there's a website which will tell you where your local schools are doing democracy sausages. and what kind of sausages they're offering. Some of them are doing vegan, some of them are doing halloumi, all sorts of other things. But democracy sausage is a big thing here in Australia, and it's a fun part of having compulsory voting. You know you've got to do it. You go down there in the morning, you get it done, you do the right thing, you vote the way you want to vote, and then you get a sausage. It's terrific. Lee says the man cave will present a great teaching opportunity for trainee archaeologists to learn yeah. I don't think there's anything here I'm ashamed of. I do have a box full of adult novels, but I don't really feel ashamed about that. Dean says, according to Terry's hat, he's old. I don't think he's a subject for an archaeologist. Yeah. Josh Bonner says, call my man cave the bridge. It's a nod to my love of science fiction and old war movies. Yep. Brian, $5 again. Thank you very much. Don't know anything about Skippy the Bush Kangaroo. I saw Skippy the Bush Kangaroo live back in the day because they took basically Skippy's not a bush kangaroo. Skippy's a wallaby, which is a smaller creature like a kangaroo. And they took it around to various shopping centres as promotion for Skippy the Bush Kangaroo. Saw the first episode when I was a kid, blew me away. The television was full of English and American shows, and there weren't a lot of Australian shows for kids that had the kind of budget that Skippy had. So it was filmed just north of Sydney where I lived, up around the Kringo Chase National Park. And yeah, it was an incredible cultural phenomenon for a number of years. There was even a feature film called Skippy versus the Intruders, which was there basically for the fan base. It actually, I remember there were a few episodes where First Nations people got a little bit of love as well. But yeah, Skippy was big here, really big. There were lunch boxes and T-shirts, and everybody knew the song. The song came out on record. Everything about it was fantastic. KN, have I seen Mumsy, Nanny, Sonny and Girly? A really quirky British horror thriller from 1970. I keep hearing good things about it. Do you recommend it? There are a couple of those kind of obscurities which didn't really play here in Australia, and they haven't come out on physical media here, but I'm willing to give it a go. I could always put it in the hidden gem thing. But yeah, Skippy was big here. There were a couple of series that did okay. There was a thing called Spy Force, which was about an Australian guy and a good German who did spy things in the Pacific Theatre during World War II. Made on a limited budget, but it was an interesting series. Starred Jack Thompson, who is like an acting god here in Australia. And Spy Force now is going for like over $100 on eBay for the box set. So it's quite out of my budget, but it was an interesting small series. Let's see. Hi, Catherine. In my movie watching the last couple of weeks, I saw 3 movies World War II post Italy. The Machine That Kills Bad People from 1952 in Italy. A Haunting in Venice, then Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. I've seen A Haunting in Venice and I recommend it. I did the Poirot video, which didn't do well on that channel, but it's really great. The full Mumsy film is up on YouTube, KN. Thanks for that. Dean, if I was to visit Australia, what do you recommend? A few things. I recommend Sydney and Melbourne, of course. I recommend that. If you can get to Tasmania, head down there because it's got some beautiful countryside and landscapes. And they have a thing called scallop pies where they give you a meat pie, but it's got like 6 scallops in it and a cream sauce. And the cream sauce has a little bit of curry in it. It's fantastic. And the people down there are nice. Where else would I suggest? Adelaide in South Australia is really nice if you can get to it. And Western Australia is just way up. But the hidden gem is really Darwin up in the Northern Territory. Darwin's a fantastic place. Cool people, arts and crafts all over the place. If you go during the dry season, Mindle Beach Market is really good. But if you don't go during there, Parap Market and Nightcliff Markets are fantastic. Fresh tropical fruits and vegetables, arts and crafts, everything. It's just a groovy place. Friday. Hi, Friday. Hollywood's recycling machine one day produced a Skippy Lassie flipper crossover idea. Would I watch it? I'd watch it for the channel, but I wouldn't watch it for passion. I don't think they will because those intellectual properties are past their use by date. It's only people my age who remember them really. But I don't think that they do that. I'm not sure who owns the rights to Skippy. It's probably still an Australian company, Transa or someone like that. But yeah, it's a Frankenstein of an idea, really, isn't it? Wasn't Darwin bombed by the Imperial forces during World War II? Yeah, it was. So was Broome on the northwest coast of Western Australia. In fact, the museum in Darwin's got some interesting artifacts of the bombing, and um, they've actually got a wall that's got shrapnel on it as well. And you can go on a tour of things like the underground diesel fuel tanks, where they refueled all of the ships and things. But the tanks were underground, underneath the peninsula where Darwin sits, and they're enormous. They're like 100 meters long, enormous tanks where it was done. And if you drive south of Darwin, out of the city and out into the rural area, there's still the remains of about 5 or 10 World War II landing strips by the side of the road where planes landed. And they tried to not stack them into Darwin, so they had a whole bunch of landing strips along the Stuart Highway south of Darwin. And they're really great to visit too. But yeah, Darwin's a groovy place. I mean, I did the radio gig in Darwin for 13 years where I talked about movies on usually a Thursday night on the radio. And that was great. Let's see, they'll probably CG Skippy now, making jump over buildings. Yeah, I mean, I don't think those intellectual properties will go anywhere unless somebody does like a fan film and puts it up on YouTube or Tubi or um, one of those kind of things. But yeah, I can't see those intellectual properties getting much traction with a movie studio. Film question: what are my thoughts on the 1959 version of On the Beach? It's a grim film, isn't it? Imprint put out a really nice box set of that recently. But yeah, it was filmed around Melbourne. It was filmed around down around Frankston. My problem with a lot of these American movies filmed in Australia is why do they have Anthony Perkins playing the character Anthony Perkins is playing, who's supposed to be an Australian? Get Australian actors. Australia had tons of great actors in, but we're in a movie drought because with the cultural imperialism of English and American films coming over, the Australian film industry died in the 1930s because greedy state governments took kickbacks from the American film studios to prioritize American film over Australian local product, which was going well. There are a lot of good Australian movies right up until the end of the 1940s, and then nothing for 20 years. And then America comes over and does this story, which is in one way an Australian story as much as it is about the people on the submarine. And they brought over too many actors. They should have gone local with, even though the actors didn't have name value. There were many, many fine Australian actors who could have played the Fred Astaire role or the Anthony Perkins role, but American studios had a lot of clout and got the say on that kind of thing. David Rayner, your dad was in Darwin when it was bombed. Yeah, I mean, it did wreck a lot of things. Darwin's been wrecked a couple of times in the 1940s during the war, and then in 1974 they had a hurricane which basically pancaked the whole city. But yeah, Darwin is one of my favourite places in Australia. Um, Friday says it would make a better Justice League, Aquaman, Flipper, Superman, Lassie, Skippy, The Flash. Yeah. Colin says I watched On the Beach and Fail Safe back to back. That would have been depressing as hell. I mean, yeah, they're both good films. Even though On the Beach is incredibly didactic, but then during the Cold War, I can't really blame them for that. Bradford Dillman says On the Beach is one of my favorite movies too. Yeah, I mean it has a kind of weightiness about it, which is good. And it's nice seeing Australia as it was in 1959, particularly places that don't normally get seen. we've got a lot of footage of like inner cities, and there are a lot of things shot in inner city Melbourne and on the beach. But places like Frankston and out in the areas outside Melbourne, which are now all houses, seeing them as they were at the time is kind of cool. And from that archaeological viewpoint and knowing the landscape and the geography as well as I do, that makes them interesting in a different way than just the narrative about everybody's going to die. Yeah, On the Beach does track well with the book. Neville Shit was an Australian, so yeah, there is that one. But yeah, I really should rewatch it when I'm in the right mood because it is such a bummer of a film. And I've got the wonderful imprint box set of that. Both films are buzzkills. Yeah, I suppose. I mean, you can see Doctor Strangelove as a buzzkill as well, but I found it amusing. But besides Tales of the Unexpected, do you like the other British series like Beast, Armchair Mystery, Hammer House of Horror, Dead of Night, or the M.R. James stuff? Yeah, I mean, I watched Beast, the Nigel Neal series Beast, which are a bunch of his stories turned into television movies. Beast is a hidden gem. Totally different vibe on each one of them. Ghost of a Dolphin. I mean, weird stuff in there, but they really make it work. Hammer House of Horror. Yeah, of course, I love that one. I haven't seen Armchair Mystery. Dead of Night's fantastic. Dead of Night's one of the best, if not the best, anthology horror movie ever. And it's got a good cast too. I mean, Mervyn Johns, Glynis Johns' father, and Glynis Johns, who's still around, just turned 100 last week. And she's still got at least most of her marbles because I saw her interview. There's a video of her being interviewed about her career. And she's still lovely and charming. I think she may have had a stroke at some stage, so her voice is a little bit difficult because she's had speech therapy. But I love the fact that she made 100 because she was a good actress and a charming persona on movies and television. Bradford, what are my thoughts on Walkabout? Walkabout, it's interesting when Australia is seen through the eyes of somebody from somewhere else, and Nicholas Roeg in this case. Of course, it brought David Gulpilil to everybody's attention, and he was such an iconic Australian actor and such a loss to us now. But yeah, I've got some problems about a 16-year-old girl skinny dipping in a movie, Jenny Agutter in this case. But apart from that, it really is about how, up until not too long ago, white Australia had a love hate relationship with the Australian landscape. They were scared of it in one place and they exploited it in another. And they stole it, of course, in a third. So that movie conveys that duality really, really well. And I think it's a classic and I think it's worth seeing. But that skinny dipping scene is a little, for me, a little prurient. And I always feel uncomfortable when I watch it and that part comes on. Do I think the Martian Chronicles could be remade today? I don't think it needs to be. I think, particularly Bradbury's stuff, is of a certain time and it talks to a certain time. The novel of the Martian Chronicles that Ray Bradbury did, and for those that don't know, I did a video about it very recently, um, talks about the problems of America in the 1940s and 1950 when the novel came out, because it was stitched together from a bunch of short stories. And the way America has problems now is totally different to the way America had problems 70 years ago. So I don't think that Martian Chronicles needs to be remade, and I don't think that Martian Chronicles should be remade. I don't think there's any meat on the bone for a modern audience to see that. But that's just my opinion. Brian, another donation. Do people still care about the actor Chips Rafferty? I do. I care about Chips Rafferty. Chips Rafferty so hard pushed for a standalone Australian film industry from the early 1940s until he died in the 1970s. he was such a total supporter of Australian film. And he took gigs overseas because sometimes the gigs weren't available here. But anybody who loves Australian film history knows that Chips Rafferty tried very hard to keep the industry going and to support it again. And in Walkabout, he is scary as the local copper. One of his very last roles, if not his last role. Totally scary in that. But he was such a strong advocate and an eloquent advocate for Australian cinema that anybody who does a history of Australian cinema and doesn't include him is missing the point. But these days, Chips Rafferty died, 50 years ago. He is a part of the history, but he's not on everybody's mind when they think Australian cinema in the modern era. KN says, I must rewatch Hammer House of Horror. I remember thinking some of the episodes were better than the Hammer films, which I love. Will I be doing a video on my music collection? When I get the man cave cleaned up, I will go through the records because records are much more interesting, of course, than CDs or anything else. And taking a look at all of the movie related albums that I've got because there are some weird and wonderful things there. And I think it would make an okay video and just kind of grooving on that because there are a number of them there. And that'll also be an opportunity to clear out anything I don't particularly want now. And I know a lot of people are collecting old vinyl, so I might be able to make a couple of bucks off it. But there are some things. There are things I've got like the soundtrack to Spartacus, which I treasure, and there are recordings of radio versions of the Maltese Falcon with Bogart and Peter Lorre and Sydney Greenstreet and all that. Friday says there's a lot of science fiction that shouldn't be made now. It's too much of its time. A lot of the technology just went out of date, i.e. Heinlein and his verniers and the slide rules on spaceships. Yeah, I mean, I think there are so many more recent science fiction writers who deserve a lot of love. And the only people who are really recognizing that, to be honest with you, are Chinese filmmakers. Because Liu Cixin's The Three Body Problem is being made into a blockbuster. And The Wandering Earth is based on one of Liu Cixin's novels. China recognizes the value and the quality and the marketability of science fiction writers infinitely more than America does. America's still hung up on Philip K. Dick and other people. But I mean, I like the fact that The Peripheral came out, even though it was only for one season, because William Gibson's viewpoint on technology and the way it impacts human beings is classic. One of the great writers of science fiction, and also a nice guy. I met him on 2 occasions. Really nice guy, Bill Gibson. Yeah, it's going to be a series, The Three Body Problem, but it is a very cerebral book. But I think it's challenging, but not impossible to make a movie of it. One of the few novels I read that genuinely terrified me. Yeah, absolutely. And I want to. I've said this about movies. I want to hear voices from a whole bunch of different cultures. I, I'm sick of hearing stories of white Americans, white male Americans in particular, because I know those stories. I know the way they go. I know what the tropes and the things that are loved and not loved about that kind of narrative are. But for me, I want to hear very different viewpoints. And one of the nice things about the creator is that it's from the viewpoint of people who are being invaded by America. Because a nuke goes off in Los Angeles, which is in the trailer, so it's not a spoiler. And America goes totally crazy about all AI, even though, as we see in the scenes in Asia, AI and humans are collaborating to build culture and to move into the future. And they're not at all inimical to human beings. They're collaborative. And I kind of like the fact that that happens. And it parallels things after 9/11 and stuff like that. And it also parallels a lot of the Vietnam War stuff. But it's a very complex movie in some ways, The Creator, and it's worth seeing. Yeah, I can recommend the science fiction of Connie Willis. Yeah, Connie Willis is fantastic. She's also a lovely person. Um, a lot of her stuff is very whimsical, and there are a couple of things she did about Hollywood and about reinterpreting Hollywood movies using AI. She was way ahead of the curve on that kind of thing. Bradford says, finally watched Freakin' Sorcerer. What are my thoughts on that one? I think it was killed by Star Wars and a terrible name. Um, yeah, I preferred the original, to be honest with you. I prefer Wages of Fear to Sorcerer. Sorcerer may be a better film, but Wages of Fear is the one I love. Love to see more Pat Cadigan in film. Pat is lovely. I'm Facebook friends with Pat. And every birthday, everybody on her friend list gets a personalized birthday message from Pat. She is truly a lovely person, and her science fiction, particularly her cyberpunk stuff, was breakthrough at the time it came out in the 70s. Dean says, do I think that in some cases American science fiction isn't very original, mega reboots, sequels, etc., because it's been dumbed down to some extent? I don't know that it is. What I think it is American movie studios, and I'm separating this from creative people because they're very different. American movie studios will milk a cash cow until it becomes beef jerky, and then they'll sell the beef jerky. They will, they're like the ants in the naked jungle. They will strip all the meat off the bone because they can, rather than going, well, I'm a little bit sick of meat. How about I do some vegetables? Or how about I make a risotto? And American movie studios' business model is to give people more of what they already like rather than going, hey, I'll bet they like this, and then giving them something totally original. Small studios are doing that. A24 is doing that. Everything Everywhere All at Once proves that there's a lot to be done with a good story, which is about basically the Asian immigrant experience in America, and making it crazily entertaining and compassionate and heartwarming and wonderful. Um, the big studios are stupid. They're enormous beasts. They're like banthas in Star Wars. They're enormous shambling beasts who only know one thing. Whereas the small studios are nimble predators. They will find somebody who's got a story to tell who isn't well known at all. Give them 40 million bucks to make their movie, and they'll make 100 million from it, and people will love it. Things like Megan, the dancing doll AI horror movie, stuff like that really works well because people, in spite of everything, are looking for something new. Yeah, there's a certain fan base where people just want to see another Star Wars thing, or they want to see another thing in another franchise that I like, or they want to see a 150-year-old Indiana Jones wandering around doing things. But novelty has a market, and I think it's going to be a growing market. That was for different voices. Really like the Wandering Earth, and They Clone Tyrone. They Clone Tyrone is great. Again, and we've got truck stumping things outside. Again, it's a small story with some good actors. Jamie Foxx is in there as well, and John Boyega. It's a good small story about how disenfranchised Black Americans can be and how they're encouraged to be dumbed down by very powerful, inevitably white people. Though the main bad in They Clone Tyrone is an interesting character in his own right. But small science fiction movies like that really pay off. And yes, they're going to be on streaming services because they're not going to get a theatrical distribution because the big studios dominate theatrical distribution. Again, there's going to be about a year where there are small films made because the small films cut deals with the unions before the big studios did. So there's about a year where we're going to get some interesting, fresh stuff. And then the big lumbering studios are going to do their thing again and start basically, doing what they did. Brian, another $5. Thank you. Chip Travers' last film was Waking Fright in 1971. It seems that the film was lost for a while. It was lost for a while, but there's some good releases of it now, and I love that. Original movie posters of Waking Friday going for an enormous premium as well. I wanted to get a day build poster of the movie, and I wasn't able to because it was prohibitive. But it's a classic film. Thank you, Richard. £3 as well. Appreciate that as well. Bradford says, "What classic do you not care for?" For me, it's Gone with the Wind and Citizen Kane. I don't like Gone with the Wind. I think Gone with the Wind is blatantly racist. And I did a video about Gone with the Wind where I said something like, "Why is this movie so famous?" Really didn't like that. Without going into details, I don't like Star Wars. And if I'm tempted at some stage to do a video on why I don't like Star Wars, but I'm not ready for that yet. And middle-aged geeker will yell at me because I'm always going on social media about how I don't like Star Wars. So I'm holding off on that till I've got all my ammunition. But there's that one. What else don't I like? Let's see. I'm just trying to think. Usually it's actors I don't like. Things like I don't like George C. Scott because he beat up women, and that's a trigger point for me. And there are actors like that that even if they make good movies and even if they act well, there's a moral block there for me on I will not honor them by spending my time watching their stuff. Doctor Strangelove was different because I got that as a review copy from Vivision, and it's a good quality product and not too expensive as well. I love the fact that 4Ks of classic films are coming out at a reasonable price. 2001, yeah, 2001 is dull. Uh, I've told this story before. I saw it on the big screen at the Astor Cinema about 20 years ago, which is the last single screen old school cinema here in Australia, or in Melbourne at least. And you get to the scene where one of the astronauts is going out to get the body of the astronaut, the other astronaut in the pod thing. And they're in the cinema, and I reach for the remote control to fast forward through the slow bits. I think it takes a certain mastery of cinema to make space travel look dull, but Kubrick succeeded, and it's basically such a simple plot. You know, people go to the moon, find something, leads them to Jupiter. They go to Jupiter. One of the guys gets basically mind screwed by the aliens and comes back as a giant space baby. That's it. Um, I appreciate that other people love it, but for me, it's all sound and fury signifying nothing. And Arthur C. Clarke, of course, is also a problematic person because were he living in the modern times, he would be seen as being a pedophile. He went to Sri Lanka partly because, of course, at the time he did, being gay was illegal in the UK, but he was also very, very fond of young boys. And I heard that from a science fiction writer's wife about 40 years ago. So yeah, 2001 again problematic, but there are a lot of good films. I mean, a lot of in spite of what Russia is now, a lot of Russian fantastica, the science fiction and space movies in particular, they're made in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, if you include Solaris, are gangbusters, wonderful films. Janet says, "Please do a Star Wars Smackdown. I liked it when it first came out, but it Close Encounters and Jaws turned Hollywood into a crab burger hamburger stand." Yeah, absolutely. And even though I do like Jaws, I don't particularly like Close Encounters because it's a cargo. Harlan Ellison said it's a cargo cult movie. You know, after World War II, when the cargo cults and non-technological cultures across the Pacific were getting a whole bunch of stuff in during the war, a lot of kind of useful things for their people were coming in during the war on American planes and things. And after the war, they thought that if they built bamboo planes, then the cargo would continue, but it didn't. So these cults, believing that if they made aeroplanes on landing strips in the jungle where they lived, it would bring the planes back. And Close Encounters is like a cargo cult movie where we build something so a more sophisticated technological civilization will give us things. That's basically what it is. Richard says, love the beef jerky analogy. Hate Gone with the Wind. Love 2001. That's fine. I mean, I'm just throwing out my opinions. I'm not going to throw down on other people's opinions on it. But I think if you're a movie buff, inevitably at some stage, you're going to come up against things you don't like. And you should have the right and be uncriticized if for logical reasons and for personal reasons, and you can explain why you don't like a particular film. For me, that works. I think it's yeah. I mean, you can have good humored discussions about that and talk about why you don't like things. But I don't think that a lot of the stands for various franchises will really jump on you if you criticize them. And that makes for a kind of fraught environment in modern social media. Dean says, I found the 2010 film was superior plot. Yeah, I like it too. And it also had human characters. The Roy Scheider character, the John Lithgow character, Helen Mirren's character. There were genuine actors doing genuine character roles within the context of that kind of cosmic viewpoint. So yeah, from that point of view, 2010 is a superior movie. The English Patient tried so hard to like that film without success. I watched the first bit of it and didn't like it. I think it may have been on a streaming service back when I had Fox still. And The English Patient didn't work for me. Barry Murphy says, considering how successful Close Encounters was when it originally came out, it seems a bit of an overlooked film these days. Yeah, I mean, there are films that have an immense cultural impact right at the moment they come out. And then crickets. Things like Avatar, in spite of what James Cameron says, people went mad for Avatar when it came out. And it was the talk of the town for about 6 months to a year. And since then, it's had no cultural impact. Yes, he made Avatar 2, Surfing Avatars, or whatever it's called. And that got an audience for a while. But it's not a franchise that's engaged the love of a fan base. Is the Fifth Element considered a classic? I thought it was bloody awful. Okay, I like I like the Fifth Element. I think it doesn't take itself seriously. Luc Besson, the director, is a problematic figure in the film industry these days, but I like it. It doesn't take itself seriously. It does some crazy world building. Gary Oldman is fantastic in it. Bruce Willis does a good job as well, and Ian Holm too. I mean, there's just such a mad world it builds that I kind of love it for that. And Mila Jovovich does a good job, though. Though it is part of a phenomenon. The Mila Jovovich character Lilu is part of a phenomenon which people have called "born sexy yesterday," which means she's basically a new human being, and in a sense an infant, but she's sexy, and that's a problematic trope for a lot of people. And I understand why. Brian, another $2. What are my feelings on Planet of the Apes, the 1960s ones? I like them. I think they were a nice addition at the time. I saw them in cinemas. They did a revival of them in the 70s, where like every week there would be another Planet of the Apes movies of the original 5 shown in cinemas. So I saw them all in cinemas. That was a weird. I mean, I like the movie. I like what it does, and I like the sting at the end of the first one, and I like the sting at the end of the second one. But here's the weird thing that the studio did: made a shit ton of money on Planet of the Apes 1968. Then they did a sequel and gave it less money. And that made money for them. Then they did another sequel and gave it even less money. and each one of the 5 films had lower budgets than the previous movie, which seems self-defeating. If something's doing really well, chuck a lot of money at the next one. You'll probably make a lot of money on it. But they did less and less and less money for each of the sequels, which was totally stupid and counterintuitive. But I like it. Yeah, shame they didn't have the budget to film the original French novel. Yeah, I mean, Pierre Boulle's novel's an interesting read, and it's very different from the Rod Serling screenplay of Planet of the Apes. But yeah, French novels being made into American movies at the time weren't particularly a thing. Kayan says there are some problematic people that look past their failures and some I can't. Absolutely. Everyone has a different trigger point for these things. Some people have none at all and will watch anything and separate the artist from the work. But for me, there are certain points at which I go, no, I'm not going there. There's so much else I want to learn about. I want to learn more about French cinema. I want Thai cinema. I want Japanese cinema. I want Hong Kong cinema. I want to learn more about all of these different versions of movie making that I don't need to watch another Kevin Spacey movie. I don't need to watch a George C. Scott film. I don't need to watch any of those problematic people's films. There's a lot else, and I'll probably learn more and enjoy more if I find something new rather than something with a problematic protagonist or a problematic actor or a problematic director. It's like Polanski. I won't watch Polanski movies until he dies. My friend Grant Watson gave me that idea. Got to split Thrush Pondo. Take care and thank you for being part of this. I always appreciate your input. Hi, Rex Dunhall. Welcome aboard. Is there a backstory on my hat? That hat is fantastic. I love my hat. I bought it from Temu because they have some cool hats. I've got a number one which says "Chairman of this shit show," but yeah, that's the story on the hat. Is there a backstory on the hat? Have I seen the new Indonesian superhero film, Legend of Garakaka? Oh no, I haven't. Is it a sequel to Gundala? Because I'm willing to do that. There's interesting Vietnamese, interesting, and I've dropped everything. There's interesting Indonesian films coming out all the time, and we don't see them because they never get any traction. But there are even small superhero movies coming from Indonesia, which are interesting. This one's kind of interesting, though. The budget limits it. I think called Valentine, The Dark Avenger, which is a kind of Batman-ish female protagonist superhero movie from Indonesia, which I recommend because they've got some interesting stuff. That and Gundala, which I did a video about, and it got a lot of traction with Indonesian YouTube watchers. But yeah, they're really big on superhero narratives because they've got like a 80-year history of superhero comics in Indonesia, and people want to see the characters they saw in the comics. Rex Dale says, lately I've been obsessed with They Came From Beyond Space. Is there a pill you can take for that? There's a certain level at which you go, yeah, it's a kind of ordinary film. But I hope you get help you need on that. Gary Counts. Surprised to find out that King Kong 1976 was one of the biggest films that year. I always thought that a bomb, but now totally forgotten about. Not great, but had its moments. Yeah, it was big. There was merch. I remember there were enormous billboards around Sydney where I was living at the time for that. It was the last big film before Star Wars came out. And people knew the franchise because everybody had seen the 1933 one. And the remake was said to be so much more wonderful. Turns out, from a long historical viewpoint, it ain't. But it was pretty damn good. Yeah, Shriya C, the Bombi Langat superhero movie, is also out. Absolutely, Emmy. I want to find a disc of it, or at least a decent copy of it. I haven't been able to. I did find a Russian dub of Shriya C, the Indonesian superhero movie, but it had advertising all over it from different Russian companies. But I want to find a decent copy of that with some decent English subtitles. Looks kind of interesting. Some nice location shots, but the version I found was unwatchable. Um, Rex Daniel says, I met Freddie Francis when I ran dailies on Cape Fear. Yeah, Cape Fear is a really interesting film. It's one of the few sequels that does really well. I really like the original, and I like the author, John D. McDonald. He's one of my favorite authors. But yeah, Cape Fear works in both versions. And Mitchum and De Niro both do a really great Max Cady in those films, and a terrifying one, each in their own cultural context. Yeah, that Born Sexy thing I mentioned, Emily Browning in the Lemony Snickets film. Yeah, there's a weirdness about that. And I think there's a dangerous aspect to that I really don't like at all. Can I imagine trying to make a comedy nowadays? Yeah, there are a whole bunch of them. There's one that came out. Give me a second. I'm just going to find it. There's a film from 2023 called Joyride, which is hilarious. I've seen the trailer for it, and even that was funny enough. I'll post a link to the Wikipedia page on it because that one looks really fun, and I want to watch the full movie. But the trailer itself is hilarious. So, of course, you can make comedies now. You just can't make comedies where women are treated like crap. Also got to meet Henry Bumstead. Classic. Bumstead was great. I'm just trying to. It's early in the morning here. I'm just Googling Henry Bumstead. I know I've heard of him, but art director. Let's see what he worked on. Wow, I'm impressed. My friend Irma, Great Wall of Salt, Cape Fear, Unforgiven, Space Cowboys, which is a really nice little weird science fiction movie. June 1984 versus June from Denis Villeneuve, or none of the above for liking. I kind of like the Lynch Dune, which I once saw under the influence of non-prescription pharmaceuticals, and it was wonderful. But I love the Denis Villeneuve Dunes. I'm going to watch the second one. I think that they're epic. They're like Lawrence of Arabia in space. And I know a lot of people prefer the Lynch one, but I think Denis Villeneuve had the budget and the vision to make it the original Frank Herbert story really work. Dean says, how far in advance do I make my movie reviews? Anywhere from 24 to 12 hours. I'm really bad at stacking my reviews. And so I'll film at 2 o'clock in the afternoon for the following day, and then spend the afternoon and evening editing out all the ums and ahs and adding little bits of visuals. So I'm a last minute kind of guy. I've got to change that. I want to stack more reviews than I have. But yeah, for me, it's all last minute, with a couple of exceptions. I did stack the videos while my nephew Billy was here because he was going to be here for 5 days and I wasn't going to have the opportunity to watch movies, film, and edit. So I stacked about a week's worth before he came here. Original Cape Fear was among your favourites. Katie's first victim, Barry Chase, is still with us. She's 99. Yeah, she's the last living cast member of It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. She's a woman who dances while Big Sean is dancing to the Shirelles 33 flavors. Barry Chase, fine actress, fine dancer, beautiful woman, and I'm glad she's still around. Yeah, Bradford Dillman says Barry Chase turns 90. Colin says, I got a 65-inch UHD TV a month ago and Dune looked great on it. Yeah, it looked great on my 4K as well. I've got the 4K of Dune. And I will get the 4K of the sequel because some movies kind of demand it if you can do it. And I love the cinematography in it. I think the acting the actor choices, the casting on Denis Villeneuve's Dune is great. It's really well chosen. Timothy Chalamet makes a good Paul Atreides. I think he's an actor to watch. And yeah, I just love it. I like the fact that Dune's now considered a classic, and it is. It's about it's basically a parallel to the story of the founding of Islam, which people don't know, but it's a bit of a headcanon. When will we get a physical release of the Seventh Victim? I've got a copy of the Seventh Victim on the Seventh Victim. Sorry, I was thinking the 10th Victim. There was a DVD release about 15 years ago, and I'm sure I've got a copy of it. The Seventh Victim is spooky as hell. Yeah, June didn't feel like 2.5 hours. I love that when a movie's 2.5, 3 hours long, and it feels like it's 90 minutes, and it's just so immersive that your time binding just goes away for the duration, and the movie sucks you in. And I love that. I think that's an incredible piece of magic that's part of cinema when it happens. Adam says, I'm missing the live stream because I'm at the movies with friends. Just saw the Royal Hotel. It's wild. I will check that. Have I seen the film Hopscotch, the one with Glenda Jackson and Walter Matthau? It's such fun. It's such a fun spy movie where Walter Matthau goes rogue and basically runs rings around the CIA. I just love that. I think it's terrific fun. And Glenda Jackson had such a gift for comedy that wasn't used often enough. And the reason people found out that Glenda Jackson had, by the way, there's going to be some ads come up in about 25 seconds for some people. It's part of what YouTube does. So if you get some ads, I'll kind of low key it for the next 30 seconds to a minute so that people don't miss anything out. Yeah, some films do just make time stand still, and the ads are going to come up very, very shortly. Middle-aged Geek Girl, let me know if you see them. So I'll show you guys a couple more things from the Man Cave while the ads are on. Let's see what we've got. Yodeling Pickle. This is the kind of stuff that middle-aged Geek Girl buys me. Let's see what else I've got. I've got my music box, which plays the theme from Sailor Moon. Okay, no ads there. So I've got a music box. So there's my Sailor Moon music box. Ads finished here, says Friday. Just got a bra ad, says Alistair, skipped it to get back to me. If you get a really cool bra ad, just keep on it. It helps the thing. Colin, 5 quid. I hate ads so much. Yeah, unfortunately, they're part of it. That's one of the ways that the channel gets paid for the content I create. If I could avoid them, I would. The other option you've got, Colin, is if you get YouTube Premium, you don't get the ads. And a more percentage of what you pay for the premium goes to the creators. Ken Riddell's, I just watched Sisu and No One Will Save You. Did not realize there were hardly any dialect in it. I love films with almost no dialogue. There's a new one coming out called Silent Night with Joel Kinnaman, which is a new John Woo movie where he plays a character who gets shot in the throat and goes on a revenge spree. After the video, if you can find the trailer for Silent Night, that looks great because there's hardly any dialogue in it at all. And the protagonist can't speak. And it's a full-on John Woo action film. I am looking forward to that one. I want to see it because I'm a big John Woo fan. A lot of fun. But Sisu is great. Sisu is one of my recommendations for the year. I'm going to do an end-of-year recommendation. Sisu is great because anybody who frisbees a landmine at a Nazi has me on board with their movie. Silent Night, after the video, go on YouTube, type in Silent Night trailer. You're going to get blown away. Okay, Middle-aged Geek Girl, there's a question for you there. Tim Horton wanted to buy a copy. I'm tempted. I really would like to try Tim Hortons coffee. People tell me it's good, but I've got high standards of coffee. So we're at an hour and a quarter into the live stream, so I should talk about the things I'm recommending. But I'll let Middle-Aged Geek Girl answer that question first, because I'm interested to find the answer too. While she does that, I've got this box set from Imprint of the film focus George Papard, and I watched 2 of the movies I hadn't seen. I don't think I have 20 years ago. You mean you gave up 20 years ago? What am I doing to secure my library for the future? Do you mean the videos or just the library, Rex? But while you're answering that, saw this one, Newman's Law, where George Papard plays a rogue cop going up against the mafia, and that this one works. It's kind of 1970s, and it was originally supposed to be made as a TV movie, but it got a bit gory. That one's a recommend. Set in Los Angeles, works really well. Complex character, really a lot of fun. Let's see. Rex says, "What am I doing to secure the videos? I've got two hard drive backups, and each video goes onto 2 hard drives. Some of them I keep on the computer hard drive because it's got a pretty big donk in it. But I've got duplicated backups on these things, and I've got to do that. Yeah, it cost me a little bit in hard drives, and I've gone from 2 terabytes to 4 terabytes on the hard drives. The new ones have got 4 terabytes. So that's what I'm doing to back it all up." Hi, Monteval. No, Luna is outside still. I think she's hiding from the truck noises, but she's around, and she'll be back in and falling asleep by lunchtime. Friday says, bizarrely, Tim Hortons came out top on a blind taste test of American instant coffee by your favorite coffee YouTuber. Was that James Hoffman? Because James is great. But yeah, I don't drink instant coffees. I will die of thirst before I drink instant coffees. Yeah, Friday, I can't get her in. She's outside. She's hiding in the bushes. Tom Rudder 1982. Recently watched. Ever seen? I think I saw it a long time ago. Is that the one with Fred Ward in it? I'm not sure. It could be. Mick 5 of 7. Just watched Banachek on Saturday. Banachek's fun. Friday says, yeah. Haven't seen it. Rex Downhorse says, I love caribou coffee. Is that where the caribou eats the coffee beans and shits them out, and then they make coffee out of them? But yeah, I mean, I've got my brother-in-law Gav, and if Gav ever watches this, shout out to Gav, sent a kilo of really good coffee beans down from Sydney with my nephew Billy. So I've got really good coffee beans, plus I've got my normal coffee subscription. So I've got like 1.5 kilos of really good coffee beans at the moment. Yeah, capitalized. Yeah, Fred wasn't. I saw it ages ago, but I don't remember too much about it. Would I like to be do film commentaries for Blu-rays and DVDs, etc.? I'd be up for it. I think that it'd be a fun thing to do with somebody else because I'd need someone to hold my hand when I started them. But if people were going to pay me to do a film commentary for a video, I'd be very happy to do that. I've put a lot of work into it, but yeah, film commentaries are an interesting thing, and I've seen them done very badly. There are some that get a lot of traction, and yeah, the people have a passion for movies, and I'm not going to criticize them. But I like film commentaries that relate what they're saying to what's appearing on the screen. Where you go, there's Barry Chase. Like if you're doing it, it's a mad world. There's Barry Chase who's still alive. She's 90 years old. Fantastic actress, fantastic dancer. Yeah, those kind of contextual ones. Right in the moment when stuff appears on the screen. I think they're good commentary tracks. But when people waffle off in a tangent and ignore really cool stuff that's happening on the screen or a moment that really needs underlining, I think that's a weak commentary track. Yeah, James Hoffman. James Hoffman's wonderful. He's charismatic. He knows his stuff. He's got his tongue in his cheek a lot of the time. And yeah, he's really, if you're into coffee at all, James Hoffman's YouTube channel is fantastic to watch. UHS commentary by Weird Al is hilarious. Todd says, I'm thinking civet cat. No, I was making a joke about civet cats and caribous, Todd. Is a book is there a book that I would like made into a film? Let me think. I want to see somebody do a really good John D. McDonald, Travis McGee series of movies. I think setting it in the 1960s would be a bonus. So I'd definitely like to see something like that. What else would I like made into movies? I think there's a George R.R. Martin book, which is a series of novelettes and short stories called Tough Voyaging, which will make a fantastic space opera. Tough Voyaging has got just such possibilities, and it's got a story arc too. It could even be made into a streaming series with a very atypical hero who has a moral compass and is very, very unusual. Rex says, I have my tongue permanently attached to the inside of my cheek. So many jokes I could make there, but I won't because, yeah, not even going to go there. Must make eating chorizo really difficult. Instant coffee can be improved immensely by two things. Don't let the water boil and add a small pinch of salt. Not worth the effort. I'll be honest with you, Friday. I've got an espresso machine which also grinds the coffee. I grind the coffee fresh. I make it on the espresso machine, and I'm a very happy man. Do I prefer The Day the Earth Caught Fire or Crack in the World? I think The Day the Earth Caught Fire is a better film, Evil Pixie 96. But I kind of like Crack in the World as well. I think it's ambitious beyond the technological possibilities of filmmaking at the time. And it's a bold concept and it's audacious. I think they'd make a fantastic double feature. I would sit down and watch that with popcorn and a beer. But why not? I mean, I love them both, but I think The Day the Earth Caught Fire is a superior film. Colin Watts says, I do boil the water and let it sit for a few minutes. See, that's the thing. If with an espresso machine, it heats the water to the right temperature. And as long as you dial in the grind right, you can get a really good coffee really easily. And I also like that little ritual of cleaning out the porter-filter, grinding the coffee, tamping it down, putting it under there, working out which coffee cup I want to use. It's a good morning ritual for me. Brian, another $2. I like the work of your cool box set. It is a very cool box set. And they've got another one coming up, which I'm really looking forward to, which is the Marlon Brando box set of movies that Marlon Brando made in the early 60s. Let me just bring up the details on that one. Let's just have a look here. This is 1957 to 1967. It's a box set. And the movies they got are Sayonara, which is problematic because he does a bit of yellow face in that. The Fugitive Kind from 1960. One-Eyed Jacks on Blu-ray. Love that. The Ugly American, which is a very interesting one about influence in Vietnam before the Vietnam War. Bedtime Story, which is the movie that was remade as Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. In this case, it's got Marlon Brando and David Niven, and a Countess from Hong Kong with Sophia Loren, made by Charles Chaplin. So Imprint are putting that one out, and that looks really, really good. There are a couple of movies in there I really love, and there are a couple of movies I want to revisit as well. Richard Hart says, I'd like to see the Anubis Case by Tim Powers made into a movie, but I don't think it's filmable. Anything is filmable if you get the right screenwriter. Crack in the World has an interesting ending that was poorly executed budget. I think it was more the technological limitations of showing a chunk of the Earth flying off in 1960s cinema rather than a budgetary thing. Frank Herbert's The White Plague might make a good film. I think it'd be one that would definitely um, stratify an audience. It'd split an audience enormously. Friday says, I might own two espresso machines, a cafetiere and AeroPress, a mocha pot, of V60, and an e-brick. Yeah, I have a copy of it, but I can handle it. Yeah, go for it. I've also got an AeroPress. I've also got a couple of others, and I've got a cafetiere, though I want to get a bigger one because I think slightly bigger ones do it better. But yeah, coffee is great. I love coffee. Coffee is my drug of choice. But just watch Murder by Death. Hilarious. Absolutely. Those Agatha Christie satires. And also The Cheap Detective with Eileen Brennan and Peter Falk is a lot of fun as well. My thoughts on When Worlds Collide. I think it's a bad idea. I don't think you should do it. But yeah, When Worlds Collide, it's fun. It's off its time. I don't like the fact that the spaceship only has white people in it, but that's neither here or there. Have I seen the two attempts of Travis McGee? Yeah, I want to see a Blu-ray of Darker Than Amber with Rod Taylor playing Travis McGee, and I've also seen the one with Sam Elliott playing the character, which was a pilot for a TV series that never eventuated. I kind of like them. I don't think they're textbook as in the novels, but I think they're honest attempts. And there's a brutal fight in Darker Than Amber between William Smith and Rod Taylor, where they really got beaten up as a part of that. And it was directed by Robert Klaus, who directed Enter the Dragon. Really good film. I think it's one that really aches for a Blu-ray release somewhere. Do I have any Korean films to recommend? The usual ones. I think that Train to Busan's fantastic. I think Parasite's terrific. There's a whole bunch of little Ken Riddle. There's a whole bunch of little Korean supernatural and science fictional series on Netflix in particular, which are worth checking out as well. Yeah, the Uncut Darker Than Amber with Rod Taylor is amazing. There's only a VHS transfer of that, but it's just a good, solid action film. Captain Laser says, speaking of media extras, do I do Criterion Collection movies? Any you might recommend? Spartacus and Repo Man I found exceptional. Criterion is crazy expensive over here. I've found a few, but things like Repo Man, Umbrella put out a fantastic version of Repo Man, which has a ton of extras on it as well. So I tend to go local because I can afford them. But Criterion here is problematic. You've got to get them imported, plus you've got to pay the premium of exchange rates. And that prevents me from getting a lot of Criterion movies. Yeah, I got to discuss Murder by Death with Peter Falk. I totally kind of stole the show. He's great. Peter Falk was he in The Cheap Detective or was he in Murder by Death? I'm trying to think. Friday says, I went to Bethlehem, had my first Turkish coffee at 16. I went to the Holy Land, had a religious experience, and that was coffee. That's the good thing about that, Friday. Coffee, unlike gods, exists. Coffee you can taste, coffee you can smell, coffee you can feel. If you had a religious epiphany about coffee, I think it's very grounded for you to have that. And that's a horrible pun I just thought up. Yeah, I love When Worlds Collide without a religious ending. So many science fiction movies of the 50s were spoiled by religious endings. And that cheeses me off. Stephen Sommers' Dead Zone remake just got me an outline of it. Kim Ki-young Hanyo's The Housemaid for Korean movies. I've heard good things about The Housemaid. I really should check it out. Has anyone heard any news about the Chronicles of Amber project? If it was made by a giant studio, it's probably on hold, if not cancelled, because of the strikes. But I like Roger Zelazny's Amber novels. I think they're a lot of fun. I think they've got a lot of legs as a potential series. Kane says, David Suchet is the only Poirot, but in fairness, he had 24 years to perfect performance. I still lean towards Branagh. I like the fact that Branagh gave it such a plausibility and a groundedness and a roundedness. I'm a big fan of his version of Poirot. I've seen a couple of the David Suchet ones, but I think they're locked into the narrative that Agatha Christie had, rather than reinventing them for modern audiences, modern era. Colin Watt says, I had a nice espresso on the Riff of St. Peter's Basilica. You were in Italy, mate. Of course you did. You as a Dragon seems to be in a race from collective memory. What's up with that? It's a great movie. Yeah, Michael Cimino's career tanked with Heaven's Gate. And that's a bit of a problem. There's a coffee and ice cream shop there. I love affogato when you put vanilla ice cream and pour espresso over it. It's the best of both worlds. Same with War of the Worlds. Yeah, they put in that Cedric Hardwicke religious ending in War of the Worlds. Doesn't sit well with the modern audience. So I'm going to do a couple of movies that I watched. I mentioned Newman's Law, which is a recommend. Pendulum with George Peppard, Gene Seberg and Richard Kiley. I love this movie because it's morally complex. And it's in that imprint box set. I actually had the Kino Lorber version of that as well. But Pendulum's great. And as I said in the video I did about the George Peppard box set, in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, you see Margot Robbie walking past a movie marquee where the movie is showing his Pendulum. So I've got that. Let's see what else I've got. I mentioned Valentine, the Indonesian superhero narrative film. Bit of fun, nothing too deep or serious. Let's see what else I've got. Sorry, my throat's getting a bit raw. Middle-aged Geek Girl and I watched this shark movie recently, and it's not great, but Middle-aged Geek Girl loves her sharks. And it's called The Requiem, which is made on a zero budget. It's almost a two-hander, with Alicia Silverstone playing a middle-aged lady who's lost a child. She lost a child in childbirth, and she's got PTSD. And so her husband takes her on a tropical holiday to Vietnam, and they get one of those nice little villas out on the water, which is over the water, and they're trying to rebuild their relationship and help her deal with the PTSD. Big storm comes through and breaks the villa loose of the moorings, and it floats out to sea. And then the sharks start coming around. It's not great. I'll be honest with you. It's not great. Not enough shark in it, according to Middle-aged Geek Girl. But when the shark comes up, on a limited budget with really shitty CGI, it does okay in the last 10 or 15 minutes. Not a recommend. I got this one really cheap. I think it was like $8 at JB Hi-Fi. But if you're into shark movies and you're a completist, you can go with that. Rex Downhall says, just watch Seconds again. Love that small Sawbass intro. Absolutely. Kane says, anything I watched about the A-Team, very few people had anything good to say about George Peppard. Yeah, he was, let's just say he was fond of a drink. And that, of course, limited his opportunity to, not moderate his behavior, and B, get himself the gigs that he thought he deserved. Let's see what else we got. I rewatched this one from 2003. And I know this is coming out on 4K. But I've got the Studio Canal Blu-ray. One of the great action films of the early part of the 21st century. Brotherhood of the Wolf. French film. It's got Vincent Cassel in it, Monica Bellucci, Marc Dacascos. Set in the late 1700s in France, where people are tracking down a monster which is terrorizing a rural province. This is a fantastic film. I love it. It's got incredible period detail. It's got some anachronistic weaponry, and it just works. Samuel de Bihan playing the hero is good. Monica Bellucci's in there. Just works really well. And I should have rewatched this one earlier. Fantastic action film. And it's easy as we get cascaded with more and more action films in more and more recent times to kind of forget these ones from about 20 years ago. Hi, Jeff. How you doing? But this one, I rewatched it and it holds up really well. There are a couple of moments when the CG doesn't hold up, but it is 2003. So you make some allowances for that. FG says in '79, Papa was in the James show Password Plus. He ranted about having to sign a document promising he wouldn't cheat. He found it insulting. Yeah, yeah. Some people, unfortunately, their demons do eat them. Dean, any next Saturday science fiction? I'm going to see what I can find from the 1940s. I'm not making any promises because I haven't worked it out yet. But I might go with a science fiction monster movie or two from the 1940s because I haven't given the 1940s enough love lately. So that's the only hint I can give you, Jeff. Dean, sorry. And I'll give it my best shot when I do it. That's all I can say. I always try to give everything my best shot. But BEMS, yeah, maybe some BEMS, maybe some monsters from a slab, which are always a lot of fun. But one way or the other, we'll get something. This one is, next one I've got for you is Transgressive. This is in a 3-box set. There's a genre of Japanese film called Pinku films, which are basically soft core adult movies. And there are 3 movies on this one. There's one called Women Hell Song, which is from 1962, an adult film in black and white in Japan in 1962. There's another small film, and there's a movie from 2011 which is mad. It's called Underwater Love. There's the box set, but Underwater Love is the one I'm going to talk about because it's about a woman who's in her 30s. She's working in a fish factory in a Japanese rural town, and she finds out that her teenage boyfriend, who died as a teenager, got reincarnated as a kappa, a Japanese water spirit who, if you look at the thumbnail of this video, you'll see what a kappa looks like. And she's about to get married to the boss of the factory, and they have a very vigorous personal life. But this ex-boyfriend of hers turns up and wants to live in her house. And kappas are interesting creatures. They have to keep the top of their head wet, otherwise they get really, really tired. They love cucumbers. They love sumo wrestling, and they're very powerful creatures. And so this ex-boyfriend turns up, and she slowly falls in love with him. And even though he does go off with one of her co-workers because she rejects him, he finds a bit of passion with the co-worker. And it's all set in this little rural Japanese town. And the weird thing is that people break out into song and dance numbers at random moments during Underwater Love. Yeah, the personal scenes are kind of interest to a certain audience. But it's mad because everybody starts singing and dancing at various bits. The lyrics as translated into English don't seem to make a lot of sense. But it's one of those mad Japanese films like Haozu and like The Happiness of the Katakuras, which is really, really fun. It's sweet and soft core adult films aren't often sweet, but this one is kind of cute and kind of sweet. And it works really well. It's just a mad, silly, low budget, but really entertaining little film. And Dean, okay, take care, mate. And I'll catch you next time. But yeah, I kind of bought this one on spec. I got it really cheaply. It's from Third Window Films, and they're out of print, all of these ones. But really a mad little film, and amusing and sweet and kind of fun in the best possible way. So that's the random film of the episode in some ways. Other things I've been watching. And the chat's gone silent. This one I want to upgrade to Blu-ray at least at some stage. From about 20 years ago. The feature film of Josie and the Pussycats is a lot of fun. It's mad, and it does some really transgressive things. Its product placement is all over this film. They've got like a million pieces of product placement, mocking product placement in movies. And the cast is pretty good. Rosario Dawson's in there, Tara Reid, Rachel Lee Cook. It's got Parker Posey in it. It's got Alan Cumming. Really a mad little film. and based, of course, on the cartoons from the 1970s. But it works. Rex said I had to take a call. Didn't get to hear about Brotherhood of the Wolf. You can go back onto the live stream if you like. It'll be about an hour and a half into the live stream if you go back and watch it again. But yeah, Josie and the Pussycats. Yeah, Friday. It's great. It's a mad little film. The music works. The characters work. Over the top craziness, and I love it. And it's not my usual genre of films either. It's something a bit out there. Brotherhood of the Wolf doesn't get enough of. Absolutely, just works. And I like the fact that the hero is a scientist and a libertine as well. He's both of those things, and he's interested in rational explanations for things which the culture in which he lives believe are supernatural. And then, of course, you've got Mark Dacascos playing his friend. Not culturally appropriate for a person of Filipino background to play a First Nations American, but he makes it work. And it's kind of like a 18th century French version of Predator in some ways. Introduced some friends to the Brady Bunch movie last week, Francis. Tell you what I think about the Brady Bunch. This is a sad story. I could never believe in the Brady Bunch. Because when my father stole custody of me and my brother, when we were very young, by lying to the courts, we ended up in a blended family. And the Brady Bunch came on television. And I could never believe in a happy blended family because my real life experience of it was contrary to that. So, not a Brady Bunch fan for triggering reasons, but not deeply triggering reasons. Orson Welles' trial. I haven't seen the Captain Laser, but I do want to see it. I love Orson Welles' work. Even when he's bad, he's interesting. Yeah, Todd, don't hate it. I mean, if you enjoyed Josie, just go with it. There are some movies way outside our comfort zone that amuse us, and I kind of like it when that happens because it never makes you less knowledgeable and less passionate about cinema when that happens. Rex Downhall says, Rex Downhall just said, just watch Excalibur again. Amazing how the Arthur character evolved. Yeah, absolutely. The other one I'd recommend is David Lowery's The Green Knight, which is from a few years ago. That's a really interesting take on Arthurian legends. And it's a high recommend from me. I watched it a couple of years ago and it stayed with me. In fact, I did a talk at a science fiction discussion group about The Green Knight. Dev Patel's really good in it. The whole cast is good. The visuals are eye-poppingly wonderful. Rex says, yes, on the trial. I'm going to have to find the trial, I think. And hi, Pat. Thanks for the recommendations too, because sometimes you hear about movies and you think, will I or won't I? But then something comes up. Yeah, well, Anthony Perkins was a good actor, hamstrung by his role in Psycho. As much as he was hamstrung by the role in Psycho, I think that his homosexuality limited his opportunities in Hollywood because homophobia was, and I'll use this term advisedly, rampant in Hollywood. There were people like Rock Hudson who made a lot of money, and Rock Hudson, people, it was an open secret that Rock Hudson was gay, but people at Anthony Perkins levels tended to get slammed. Okay, to watch. Can you get a link to that one Jeff Martin just mentioned for me? Middle Aged Geek Girl, or at least write the name down because I want to see what that one's about. Oh yeah, Josie and the Pussycats, so much fun. In fact, I like the cartoons as well. I watch them all. I watch the Archies. I watch Josie and the Pussycats. I watch Josie and the Pussycats in Space. Those were my Saturday morning cartoons. These days, my Saturday morning cartoons are YouTube channels I like. But yeah, Josie and the Pussycats works really well. And yeah, it kind of reinvented that particular intellectual property in a really great 21st century way. Man infiltrates an insane asylum to try to free his wife. Yeah, Todd, Green Knight is stunning, and the ending of it is hauntingly good. Yeah, maybe I should do a video about insane asylum movies because I could do Shock Corridor, I could do The Snake Pit, I could do a whole bunch of them. I might look into doing that because I think there's a lot of meat on the bone there. But yeah, just so many good films. Here are the couple. I've got a couple of horror movies I'm going to watch. Let me know if you've seen them because I'd be interesting. Be interested to know what you think. These ones I got cheaply at JB. They're both Mia Goth movies, and this one's a sequel to the other. There's X, which is a horror movie. I'm going in these cold. I don't know anything about them. There's X and Pearl, and I keep hearing great things about them from people on various channels. And so I'm going to dive into these. I don't know whether middle-aged good girl wants to watch them with me, but I hear they're very good. This one, even though it came out later, is a prequel to this one. That's all I know. And so I'm going to go and watch these and hopefully enjoy them because they're all got 5 stars in the blurbs on the back. But I haven't seen them. I didn't want to invest as much as getting a Blu-ray of them, but I was willing to go to the DVD and see whether they're worth it. James Holland, Pearl is terrific. Thanks. Appreciate that. Mr. Diaz, Gen Z, do Australians get knocked out of the Rugby World Cup? So did Scotland yesterday. Not much of a sports ball fan. In fact, I'm not any of a sports ball fan. But I'm sure it made people upset that that happened. Videodrome, when I'm on, yeah, yeah, it's a Halloween spectacle. Totally, Videodrome is great. I love Cronenberg stuff. When you're on acid, it's a Halloween spectacle. Not sure I'd see Videodrome when I'm on acid. I saw Dune, which was spectacular, the David Lynch one, but yeah, I'm not sure. Rex says, I hate iPad spell correction. Pearl, yeah, I got that one, James. Pearl is terrific. Colin watches, I watched It's a Wonderful Life on acid once. My tummy's rumbling because I haven't had full breakfast yet. Yeah, It's a Wonderful Life I've got a problem with because the banker steals money and gets away with it. And I'm not sure that's a good lesson to send to anyone. I've got ideological problems with It's a Wonderful Life. Yeah, don't do drugs, kids. Yeah, absolutely. Don't do drugs unsupervised. I wonder if the prevalence of edibles in America is anything to do with how crazy the politics is going there. But that's a bit random, so let's not go there. Jeff Martin says, yeah, I'm not a fan of It's Wonderful. I love a lot of Frank Capra films. My favourite is Lost Horizon because I really like that film and I like the utopian idealism of it. And it works well for me. The sequel, the remake with the music in it, the Ross Hunter remake, don't like it all. Though it's got a couple of WTF random moments that I'm kind of fond of. Todd says, slashers are not my favourite of horror, but I love Pearl and X. Okay, cool. Not everyone has access to edibles. It's a state by state at this point. Yeah, it's a weird thing. I mean, I'm in favour of legalization because based on the Portuguese experiment in Portugal, it improves a culture and gives more opportunities for people who do have problems of addiction, particularly with really hard drugs, to get help without being potentially criminalized. So yeah, I am in favour of that. But in fact, yeah, I'll tell this story. When I was living in Canberra, the national capital, the people who supplied marijuana to my friend group were federal police. They were growing it in their own garage. So make of that what you will. Have I seen Lilith? Is that the one with Warren Beatty? I think I've seen it once ages ago, but it would have been in VHS days, and I don't remember much about it. Rex says agree on Portugal. Yeah, I think it's same approach. I think drug addiction is a medical problem. It's not a legal problem. Cops always have the best part. Yeah, look, ever since the colonization of Australia by white people, Australia has had the best police money can buy. That's all I'm going to say on that one. Let me just tidy up a little bit here. Okay? So we've got about 9 minutes left. Is there anything else people want to say? Is there any other cool stuff you want to recommend? I'm always happy for that. Not necessarily going to watch all of it, but having a list is always useful for me. So when I see it available somewhere, I go, that's on a list. I will get that. But yeah, this has been a really nice live stream. It's flowed very well. Got to rant about a few things. Got a few bits of shit off my liver. Yeah, thank you to everybody. It's really, really groovy. And hopefully a couple of videos from now, the backdrop is going to look a lot better as well. Ever had a brush with greatness? For you, it was Gregory Peck and Sidney Poitier. Yes, I have. Met Peter Fonda when he did Yuli's Gold, the movie he was nominated for an Academy Award with in '98. Very polite, gentlemanly character. Good old hippie vibes about Peter Fonda. I also went to a very, very small press conference for Kevin Spacey before he hit big, where he was promoting a movie he directed called Albino Alligator. Right from the start, creepy vibe, enormous head. He's got a head like somebody at a Mardi Gras festival, but really creepy vibe about Kevin Spacey. CEO Monteval just says, have I watched Madam Satan? Madam Satan's fun. I like any movie with a Zeppelin in it. I haven't watched it lately. I really should rewatch that because it is a lot of fun. Please watch Wanda from 1970. Let me have a look at this. Give me a moment. Do my magical Googling. Let's see. Directed by Barbara Loden. Okay, cool. A Woman Finding Herself. Sounds like a good movie to watch. Thanks for the recommendation, Bradford. Yeah, middle-aged giggle. I've got, as I said, looking for a friend at the end of the world. Yeah, I think it's kind of nice. There was a whole bunch of those kind of sweet apocalyptic movies at a certain stage. Steve Carell does a nice job in that one. But yeah, I'm kind of going off apocalypses. The Gene Autry series Phantom Empire is your favorite as a kid, James. Yeah, where he finds the underground empire. Very weird for Gene. I used to watch the Gene Autry movies because they came up a lot when I was a kid. With Smiley Bennett. It was the Smiley Bennett in those ones? Could have been. But they were fun. Should all widescreen movies be made in the Ben-Hur aspect ratio of 2.74 to 1? Watched a few on VLC and they look great. I like cinematic look. I think for certain things, cinematic look works well in kind of widescreen about like that. Works well for kind of picturesque movies. But I'm not sure it works for like people drama films. I think there are different aspect ratios for different kinds of films. There are even times when 4:3 is right for the particular thing. I like the fact that technology now allows people to make movies in whatever aspect ratio they need to make the movie in. And I'm fine with that. I think that things like Dune, the Denis Villeneuve Dune, looks great in really widescreen. Lawrence of Arabia is a headcanon in widescreen. And things like One-Eyed Jacks, the Brando film, looks fantastic in really widescreen because it's that kind of film. I think that making a choice, I mean, one of the choices that a filmmaker has to make is what will my aspect ratio be? Sometimes that may be determined by the studio, particularly if it's a streaming studio. But there are things like on Netflix, there's The Other Side of the Wind, the Orson Welles movie that was reconstructed and finally edited. and that looks fantastic in widescreen. Okay, you too, Mick. Appreciate all the input in the channel. We've got 5 minutes left, and I'm going to have a drink of water before my throat turns into sandpaper. Don't know how people do really long live streams. I think that's a risk for your personal health. But yeah, I mean, we've talked about so much this time around. It really has a great vibe to it, this live stream. Even though there wasn't too much show and tell of movies. And again, I love these toys. But yeah, one of the Brainstorm, of course, was a pioneer of multiple AR. Yeah, Brainstorm's great. I think that, of course, Natalie Wood dying truncated the ending of Brainstorm. But there are things I really love in Brainstorm, like Louise Fletcher's death scene. It's fantastic. It's a masterpiece of cinema. Dave Made a Maze is a fun movie from 2017. It is. And I like movies like that that break reality, where some random guy does something and reality just goes. I love those kind of movies. And it kind of, in some ways, is like a precursor to Everything Everywhere All at Once, where everyday people do extraordinary things. Yeah, absolutely. The Brainstorm was the first one to change the aspect ratio. It is a mind-blowing one. Yeah, I think Louise Fletcher kind of got stereotyped after playing Nurse Ratched. But yeah, she could project a warmth and a compassion. And you can see the genuine love she has for the Christopher Walken character in that. And the almost kind of like favorite auntie aspect to that, which was really great. Brian, I appreciate it. If you can't afford things, I don't mind people not donating. If people can donate it, it's wonderful as well. But just grooving about movies with people is such a joy. And the fact that technology now allows us to do this in real time is still mind blowing to me. I get mind blown by the fact I can even own a copy of a movie because in my childhood and up till the fact I was an adult, I couldn't own a movie. Ken, I appreciate that we're giving some me. Friday thoughts on split screen, i.e., the Andromeda strain. I think in the Andromeda strain it takes us out of the movie a little bit, but there are some movies where it works. I think this is a palm film. Is it Snake Eyes, where split screen works, and there are a couple of others. Tarantino uses it sparingly, I think, in Kill Bill, but I think it does depend a lot on the particular film and what you're trying to say in that scene in that film. Yeah, gotta love the future. Absolutely. Take care, Jeff. Thomas Crown. The original version is fantastic, and of course, yeah, the split screen works in there as well, and the multiple screens works really well. Mr. DSN, he's finally got Lucy on Blu-ray. Double focus shots are quite cool. Done. Double shots are also nice. Kill Bill, that was a movie I don't care for. Colin says, I like it. I kind of like Tarantino stuff. I don't always agree with it, but I like it. I like the fact that even when he is doing mashups and unofficial remakes, he's doing it in a way that's very knowledgeable about cinema, and he is a master of dialogue. Rex Download says, my pay attempt just fell. If you're that way inclined, Rex, you can also donate after the live stream goes off. There is a little dollar sign underneath each video if you choose to. Boston Strangler has great split screen. I really should really watch that. I love Tony Curtis going there and doing Albert DeSalvo in the Boston Strangler. Yeah, I like Tarantino as well. I did a 24-hour movie marathon of Tarantino's films, which up to modern times, watching Tarantino movies for 24 hours is a challenge, but it was a fun challenge. And hopefully before the end of the year, I am doing another 24-hour movie marathon where I watch movies for 24 hours and kind of review them in between the movies. Looking forward to that. I'm probably doing, at this stage, I'm doing the Fast and Furious films, which aren't necessarily films I love, but you can fit them all into 24 hours. So I'm going to give that a go as a challenge for action films I'm not in love with, but I'm going to watch them for 24 hours as a challenge on the channel. So that's it. It's time to knock that naughty clock that says it's time to go. So anyway, thank you everybody for being on the channel. Thanks to everyone who donated. Thanks to everybody that contributed in other meaningful ways. I'm sure you can find other movies, Mr. DS Gen Z. But yeah, thanks a lot, people. This has been wonderful. I appreciate it. Yeah, De Palma was great with Split Screen. Body Double, that's the other one. But anyway, definitely got to go. So everybody take care. Look after yourselves. Watch a lot of good movies. Watch a few bad movies just so you got contrast. And I'll catch you all later. Thanks, Catherine. And thanks, Captain Laser. Thanks, Manuel and Todd and everybody else. And I'll see you guys in a month.